Hi, my name is Zara Hoffman, the founder of Inimitable Books. I haven't turned 30 yet, and I've hit burnout at least 15 times in my life. And I'm not talking about having a bad week or being down with the cold or the flu and not being able to do work. I'm talking about actual burnout. Dear Writer, Are You in Burnout by Becca Syme taught me the difference between a rough patch and actual burnout and why the recovery looks different than you might think. Her book feels like it was written specifically for you, even though you know there are thousands of others who probably feel the same. Syme brings her background in human behavior and her experience of working with writers to tackle something that's incredibly common, but rarely discussed with the raw honesty that we need. The book grew out of her own experience with burnout and recovery, including her recovery from surgery, which is something I share in common with her, and it gave her a unique perspective on what recovery actually looks like. She realized that the advice most people give for burnout is just rest for a weekend, take a vacation, practice some self-care, completely misunderstands what burnout actually is and how long real recovery takes. What makes this book different is that Syme doesn't promise quick fixes or simple solutions. She's honest about the fact that burnout is serious, recovery is still work, and sometimes the best thing you can do is absolutely nothing. And that might sound contradictory, but by the end of this video, you'll understand why it's actually the most compassionate and practical approach to burnout recovery that I have ever read. Here are 3 things that completely change how I think about and approach burnout. First is recognizing that burnout is more than just being tired. It's not just being stressed, and it's not just a level of exhaustion that can be fixed with a good nap or a good weekend. Syme explains that real burnout has specific symptoms that are different from normal tiredness or even temporary overwhelm. Real burnout involves consistent low energy that doesn't improve from rest, feeling overwhelmed by tasks that normally feel manageable, and feeling like you're not making any progress no matter how hard you work. She describes it as feeling stuck in a pit when you are doing everything you can to get somewhere and are getting nowhere. And the key word here is consistent, because everyone has a bad day every so often, or a bad week, or a bad month. Ask any student who's ever been through finals, and it is definitely more than a single bad day. Everyone gets tired, everyone gets stressed, everyone has times where work feels harder than usual, because sometimes it is, and sometimes it's just overwhelmed talking. But burnout is when these feelings persist for a longer period of time, and when they don't improve, even when you remove stressors. And if they start affecting multiple areas of your life, you are probably in burnout. She also talks about how burnout often includes a sense of detachment from things you used to care about, cynicism about your work or your industry, and a feeling that nothing you do matters. So that is definitely more than just being tired. Second, recovery is work, and that is not the contradiction you think it is. This was revolutionary for me. Syme talks about her experience with recovering from surgery and how medical professionals told her that recovery is work. Syme explains that recovery requires active choices, boundaries, self-awareness, and often significant changes to how you approach work and life. Recovery work might include saying no to opportunities that would normally excite you, restructuring your daily routines, or having difficult conversations with people in your life about availability, or making professional changes that feel scary but are necessary. It's all work, and it's required to sustain your ability to withstand future episodes of burnout, if not avoiding them altogether. Just like physical therapy after an injury requires effort for you to heal, burnout recovery requires mental and emotional effort. Third is that recovery looks different for everyone. It doesn't always look the same, and using the wrong recovery method at the wrong time could actually make burnout worse. Our author Holly Davis calls some times where she needs to do absolutely nothing blobbing, where she is just on the couch with her cats doing nothing creative or work related. And your brain is completely disengaging from productive activities. Our other author, Kate Kavanaugh, does this thing that she loves, which is refilling the creative well. It engages in activities that are creative and energizing, but different from anything to do with novel writing. The key is understanding what type of recovery your specific situation requires. If you're completely depleted, trying to do anything productive, even if it's in a different arena, might increase your stress. If your creativity is blocked but you still have energy, pure rest might leave you feeling restless, which isn't helpful. So SIME provides a framework for identifying which type of recovery you need and gives you permission to pursue whichever one that is without guilt. I've experienced 6 surgeries in the past 3 years. That's a lot. I have learned so much about recovery in trial by fire. Through mental health therapy and physical recoveries, I have discovered that sometimes doing absolutely nothing really is the best thing. I'm filming this a few days after overcoming a cold that laid me out for a week, and I wasn't able to do a ton of work. I still had to do work, and I actually got a lot done that I'm proud of. But there was one day in the middle of that week where I thought I was feeling better, tried to do a big push, and then wound up setting myself back for an entire day, to the point that my mom very rightly said, you need to actually be resting rather than pushing through everything, or you're never going to recover. A lesson that I thought I had already learned when my most recent surgery, which was a few months ago, left me feeling much more energized than I thought after a single day that I tried to go back to work as usual, and then really paid for it the second day out from surgery. I took a much more relaxed time in recovery, at least for a few days before I started consuming a bunch of content on learning how to make an effective YouTube channel so that this new YouTube channel could be the best it could be. As someone who loves to be doing things and hates being bored, doing nothing is a pain. It is not always enjoyable when I have to first start doing it, but the results of doing nothing when I need that downtime is. And I've learned to recognize my own patterns and warning signs of approaching burnout. If I start having consistent bad feelings for 3 or more days per week, which is actually a common question on a lot of medical intake forms that I've had to fill out for these surgeries, it's not a good time. It doesn't have to be consecutive. It doesn't have to be I feel hopeless, which is also a feeling that I think many of us are dealing with this current state of the world, but feeling like I'm not doing enough or doing well in work, even though my level of output is still the same, although you should not be measuring your burnout by whether or not you're still productive, but how you're feeling about it is helpful. And knowing that if I'm starting to feel cynical about my work, that is a red flag. If my sleep patterns get disrupted and stay disrupted, no matter how much I try to correct them, that's another sign. If I find myself constantly consuming content without creating anything, either for myself, the publishing company, or crocheting, that means normally already in burnout territory and not even just approaching it. So if I'm burnt out to the point that I feel like I can't do anything, I do what Holly Davis does, which is blobbing. For me personally, because I don't watch a lot of streaming anymore, it's normally watching YouTube videos for me. Sometimes it's even rewatching old YouTube videos that I have already seen so that it's background noise, because I don't love silence, but it is not taking in anything new. It doesn't require brain power for me. And it's also not trying to refill the creative well. It's just trying to bring me joy from something that I already know made me happy once. However, when I do want to refill the creative well, I might read a book on writing, I might do some crocheting, I might do some research on new marketing tactics that I have been meaning to try out. This is not me trying to do everything perfectly, which we talked about being bad advice in the previous video, which I will link over here, but it doesn't drain the same mental resources for me as doing work. It's learning stuff so that when I am able to do more work, I can try new things that keep me excited or will propel me to do better in what I was already doing. But aside from that, taking walks with my dog, playing with her, or just sitting on the couch with her on opposite ends because she does not like being crowded is just as important, and it's not always blobbing. I could be just literally enjoying the time with her in what most people would probably call a mind state. Also, with her unfortunate diagnosis, spending as much time with her as possible has taken precedence in my life more than it ever has before, and I'm actually really enjoying that. The physical movement I get with her, normally paired with fresh air and non-sedentary activities with her, she really likes to play soccer in the apartment. It helps me feel more energized, even if I don't take that energy and put it into more productivity. Because like I said, we're trying to recover from burnout or to avoid it. And so constantly taking any new energy I get and putting it into work isn't the goal for these activities. And then sometimes a nap is exactly what I need. I have always been someone who thankfully has been able to nap when I need to, but I used to feel guilty about it when I felt like I should still be able to work at least another hour to get a task done, and then I'll take my nap as a reward. Because we don't need to earn our rest, especially if we're approaching or are already in burnout. We need the... And the biggest shift I've had to accept, and this book has helped me with, is that recovery timelines are not linear, and they're not always the same, and sometimes they're longer than you want them to be. After each surgery, I did not have the same experience. Some of that is because they were different surgeries, but multiple of them were leg surgeries on the same area, and 2 of them were on my abdomen for endometriosis. So I thought I knew what I was going to be getting with the 2nd or 3rd surgery of each of those areas, while I had some experience with knowing that anesthesia stays in your body for more than the time that you're in the hospital. Even though no one warned me about that the first time, the recovery time for my first leg surgery was different from my second. Energy spike the 2nd day after my 2nd endometriosis surgery was definitely not something I experienced with my first one, and I didn't know what to do with that and thought I could go back to work, and then, like I said earlier in this video, paid for overexerting myself too early. So recovery, whether it be physical, mental, creative, or all 3, takes as long as it takes, and trying to rush it or ignore it only makes everything worse. So here's what I want you to do this week. Start tracking your energy and mood patterns. Start tracking your energy and mood pattern. And also try tracking what you've done in a day so that you can draw correlations. You can either do this in a bullet journal, you can do this virtually, you could get some apps like I do to help you along with this data collection. I use Rise because it tells me about energy, rises and dips that I can expect based on how well I slept the night before. But you can do it with pen and paper as long as you are tracking it in whatever way works for you. And you can also check out my video about what tools I use to stay on top of my life and keep organized over here after you finish this video to give you some ideas. You're going to track this information and you're not going to judge it. It's just about being aware of what you're doing and what that effect is on you. For 7 days, note how you're feeling. Are you constantly feeling low on energy? Are you overwhelmed by tasks that should be manageable? And now, using the word should is really rough because we all have low energy days. The word should introduces a lot of guilt. But if it's usually manageable for you and suddenly it feels insurmountable, that is something to pay attention to. Are you consuming more content than you're creating, and is that a different ratio than you are used to when you're feeling good? Things like that I've been discussing are good things to track. And other things I've been discussing throughout this video as my own triggers, being worried about approaching burnout, are things that you can track. If you know about your own burnout warning signs, then definitely track those as well. I don't want you to try and fix everything immediately. Just acknowledge them and then ask if you need permission to do nothing for a while. Can you be gentle with yourself? Do recovery activities and prioritize them. Do you need physical movement and fresh air, or do you need to completely disengage from all productivity, including physical fitness? Most importantly, if you recognize signs of burnout in yourself, please don't try to power through it. And if taking the advice from this video or any of the others in this series feel like too much work right now, then listen to that as well. Burnout isn't a character flaw or a time management problem. It is your system telling you something needs to change or you're going to run into a wall. The kindest thing you can do for yourself is to listen to that message and respond appropriately before it is taken out of your hands. You are benched for however long it takes because you didn't take care of yourself in it. It can feel uncomfortable and inconvenient, but that doesn't mean you should ignore it and push through. If this video helped you understand burnout better or gave you permission in to give yourself rest. Please subscribe for more honest content about writing life and advice on staying sane in this crazy but amazing creative field that we have all decided to be in. And if you missed the previous video in this series about advice that you should stop taking, you definitely want to check that out while we are in the process of making more videos of writing advice that you should consider taking. We also have a lot of videos on this channel about writing advice and other writing routine systems that you can try out for yourself in this playlist. We also have a query ready course that I am so proud of and have spent a lot of time and effort into putting together. Within that course, we talk about things that are about staying sane and not just constantly working on your project, even though that might sound surprising. So even though it's called Query Ready, there's a lot more in it than just how to write a query letter, and I really encourage you to check it out. So please subscribe and check out our previous videos. We will be back with more content very soon.